Hi everyone, it's been a while since I've given an update about anything really. It's been a while since I've done a new video, so I thought I'd provide an update on development of Midnight of the Century, which is my mid-90s pre-apocalyptic serial killer investigation TTRPG. It's inspired by stuff like Millennium, Silence of the Lambs, Twin Peaks, 7. So I've been talking about this for a while. Primer's out now, available to download. It's crowdfunding on itch.io, which means you can basically back at a certain tier and then you'll get money off the full book when it comes out. You'll also get access to the primer PDF right away. So the primer is basically a quick start, an introduction to the system and the introductory investigation. So I've been working hard on the full book. I'd hoped to have had it done by now, basically, and ready to go to the printer, but obviously life gets in the way, schedules have slipped, timelines have slipped. So I thought I'd provide an update on where I am right now and kind of what the next steps are, basically. So I've done a lot of development on it. I've been fleshing out more of the systems. I've been kind of expanding on what I'd built into the primer, so kind of teased in the primer. So I've been expanding that out. I've been working on an investigation generator. So I thought it'd be worth running through what's going to be new in the full book and kind of what to expect from it, that sort of thing. First and foremost, there are 2 new Investigator Specialisms. So in the primer, you've got the Profiler and you've got the Occultist. So in the full book, you're also going to have the Journalist and the Damned. So for the Journalist, I've got character touchstones, and for the Journalist, it's Thomas Vale from Nowhere Man, the 90s TV series, Reiko Asakawa from the Japanese Ring from 1998, and then Carl Kolchak from Kolchak the Night Stalker, which was a series in the 70s that heavily influenced X-Files and Millennium. So the logline for the Journalist is, you seek the truth, whatever the cost. The people have a right to know. So you get 2 specialist skills as a journalist. You've got what I'm calling Probe, which is basically a deep background check or deep background dive into a specific topic. So it requires access to a phone and it requires time to do the research, but it's basically like, this is putting in the work to find out, like to get a deep dive on a specific topic. You can do it in the library, you can do it via phone, that sort of thing. The next one is a bit more interesting and has gameplay implications. It's called Coerce. So basically this is blackmailing someone to do something that they don't want to do or give information that they don't want to give. It's basically a threat to dig some skeletons out of their closet. So I've got a kind of a note to myself on this one. Sometimes you need to be the bastard to get things done. So the next specialism I'm calling the Damned. So these character touchstones are Eric Draven from The Crow, Ezekiel Stone from Brimstone, which was a short-lived horror show on Fox in the 90s, and then Daniel Robitaille, which is Candyman. So the logline for this one is, you're dead, but you still got shit to do. So essentially, you play a spirit, and you can possess the living. You've got 2 specialist skills. One I'm calling Discorporate. Basically means you leave the body that you're in, and you can float around as a spirit, and then you can attempt to possess a new body. And then the other skill is called Express. So think of this as like an emotional psychic attack. So basically you express a very strong emotion against a target, and that will like throw them off balance, or it has some interesting implications. So think the kind of Eric's empathy attack in The Crow, where he gives all of the pain that he's kept, that he's kind of gathered throughout the film, and he gives that, like he expresses that into the bad guy at the end. So I think with the original 2 specialisms, I think this gives a lot of interesting gameplay opportunities, and you can mix and match with the different investigators. So I think this is gonna be really fun. Have a lot of interesting kind of knock-on effects with how they interact and that sort of. So something else that I've added to the full book that I think was not missing, well, not necessarily missing, but it was not as fleshed out as it could have been in the primer. And this is rules around confrontation. So confrontation is kind of the final step. When you've tracked down the serial killer as an investigator, you've tracked him down, you go face-to-face, one-on-one with them as the final potentially final confrontation. How does that kind of mechanically work out? I left that pretty high level in the primer, so I fleshed that out a bit more and put some kind of a framework of rules around that. So it's not just kind of. So with this one, you basically choose one of your 3 stats, attempt a confrontation using that as the kind of core of your action. If you want to attempt a body confrontation, that would be basically you grapple with them, or you wrestle them to the ground, or knock the weapon out of their hand, that sort of thing. If you're going to kind of lead with mind for the confrontation, then you're going to try to outwit, distract, or bewilder the opponent. So basically use their environment, use what you've learned against them, what you've learned about them against them, that sort of thing. So using your mind to confront the killer, which is kind of from the profiler perspective, that's like the kind of ultimate version of that. Finally, if you're going to take a will-led approach to the confrontation, then you're going to kind of try to either appeal, persuade, deceive, use your emotions, or use the uncanny against them. You could potentially appeal to I'll get to this a bit later on, but you could appeal to outer powers to intervene on your behalf. So there's a bit of flexibility in this one. I think there's flexibility with all 3 of them. It gives you a framework on kind of how you want to approach a confrontation, and then depending on what stat you use, then you roll against that stat, and then you roll on a confrontation table, which gives you different results. I've taken this from kind of a classic 2d6 table, so I've used this in my previous games for solo rules. So I'm calling it sorrow or favor. So basically there's like a sliding scale on the 2d6 table. An outcome that would be sorrowful or favorable, or have a complication, that sort of thing. So one of the big sections in the full book is going to be around the Oroboro Group. So this is the mysterious organization that you're working for as an investigator. So I go into the history of Oroboro, what they started out as, public and secret history. Also factions. There's factions within Oroboro, as you would expect. Then there's threats to Oroboro. So they'll have competitors in kind of the corporate sense. They'll also have groups that are working against Oroboro. So there's a lot of kind of interesting clandestine machination, as you'd expect with kind of a vast and powerful group with a mysterious background in history. So something that was just hinted at in the primer is the concept of the uncanny. It's basically the other world, the supernatural world. So I'm calling it Uncanny. So this includes stuff like relics. You can get relics that will help you in an investigation, but they come with a big cost. There's also rituals. So sometimes killers will attempt to carry out a ritual and invoke outer powers. And sometimes investigators can attempt rituals too, but it's frowned upon for lots of different reasons. And then I've mentioned this a few times, but outer powers. So basically, these are supernatural beings or uncanny beings. So kind of split them into 2 obvious camps, the messengers, which would be angels, and then the fallen, which are demons. So they're kind of both, they work behind the scenes, rarely intercede directly, but they kind of pull strings, like kind of moving things behind the scenes and that sort of thing. The outer powers will kind of take different forms and act in different ways to advance their own agendas. So kind of connected to the uncanny and outer powers is the concept of the end of the world. There will be different ends of the world, essentially. So different apocalypses, different ways the world will potentially end. Split into 2 main groups, secular and uncanny. So secular is stuff like natural disasters, it's man-made apocalypse, so mutually assured destruction, nuclear destruction, that sort of thing. Or like natural would be like catastrophic impact event, so like a meteor hits the earth, that sort of thing. Then uncanny are kind of biblical end of the world, so Judgment Day or the Rapture, or more esoteric stuff like Ragnarok, like destruction and rebirth of the world, that sort of thing. So they'll be different depending on what kind of end of the world is in play. There'll be different omens and different signs of the end of the world, basically. So something that was just briefly touched on in the primer was like investigator tools and equipment. Like each investigator specialism has items that they start with, starting items. mainly for flavor, but there's also some like mechanical benefit to it. I've fleshed that out, and I've got investigation tools, specialist or kind of mundane. So specialist tools you won't really be able to get easily, but Oroboro can provide them. After you successfully complete an investigation, Oroboro will gift you an investigation tool. Sometimes they come with strings attached. So stuff to help you in investigations. So like practical stuff like walkie-talkies, or like if you want to tap someone's phone line, you can do that through this stuff. Or more kind of like there'll be stuff that enhances your uncanny abilities. So like a kind of a focus that will increase the range of your abilities, that sort of thing. So one of the big things that I've been working on, it ties into solo rules, but it's basically an investigation generator. So this will allow you to randomly roll up killers, victims, an investigation timeline. So if you want to get right into an investigation, just quickly roll on a table and it'll generate a killer for you, their victims, their modus operandi, methods, all sorts of things. So it's pretty go into pretty granular detail, while still kind of keeping it. It's not a simulation. I want to make it fun and interesting. So I've used kind of real statistics, but also like given a twist on them. It's more like this has kind of been my approach throughout the development. It's like TV and movie logic rather than wanting it to be a historical simulation or like a forensic investigation simulator, that sort of thing. So more err on the side of fun and kind of keep things interesting and keep things moving. So that's kind of where the investigation generator is pitched. And then tying into that, you can use that to randomly generate your own investigation for solo play. But also, I'm working in a way of, I'm calling it, I think I'm going to call it Solo Legacy. I think someone else has coined this previously, so I'm not going to kind of claim to have originated that term. But you can take your solo investigation, say you get to a certain point in the hunt for a serial killer, and your investigator dies, or you kind of get retired, or you can no longer proceed with the investigation for whatever reason. You'll have been filing reports to Oroboro throughout your investigation, and you can take those reports, kind of that's the way that you journal in the solo rules. So you'll be journaling different reports and the actions and goings on of the investigation. So you can take those reports and you can give them to another player as if Oroboro was kind of seeking out a new investigator. So they can pick up where you left off and investigate the murders that you were investigating, but also potentially investigate your murder, and kind of go from there. So they'll be able to pick up where your investigator left off before they were killed. So yeah, that's going to be really fun, I think. And I'm going to set up some different templates and things on how to document your actions and investigations. And there'll be some stuff that, because you file the reports at the end of each shift, and so if you die during the shift, then you won't be able to file your report. So they have to go on your most recent report and kind of try to pick your trail back up. So that's going to be a lot of fun. So yeah, I mean, I've developed quite a bit. It's still a work in progress. I'm doing the draft first, like the kind of manuscript draft. So I'm writing everything out first before I start laying it out. Well, that's mainly for my editor. I want to be able to give them kind of a single document that's easy for them to edit, and then I'll take that and lay that out in my in InDesign. Things move pretty quick when I start layout, so I want to be in a strong position, and I want to make sure that everything's kind of where it should be, and before I start doing layout. But I'm doing some illustrations, and I'll have shared some during this video. That's where we are. Development's going well. Still hope to. I'd originally hoped to have everything printed and ready to go for November, but that's not going to happen because it takes maybe about 6 weeks at the printer. I will have the PDF done by the end of the year, or at least like versions of the PDF, and then hopefully as soon as possible in the new year, getting it printed and shipped out. So that's kind of where the timelines are at the moment. So I've still got guest writers who are doing additional investigations. So I'm waiting on a few of those coming back in, and then I'll turn that into an additional. Well, if we hit the milestone in the Itchfunding, I'll turn that into a separate book but it'll be included. The PDF will be included, and then kind of if you back at the deluxe level, then you'll get a copy of that book as well. So if this sounds at all interesting to you, the game is still Itchfunding now. So if you go to biodenspiritRPG.itch.io and check out Midnight of the Century, you can back it there. There's 3 tiers. There's digital, which gets to the PDF. There's physical, which gets you £25 off of the full hardcover. And then there's the deluxe, which gets you the full hardcover and any stretch goals, physical and digital stretch goals. So there's like a companion EP that I've commissioned and released for Midnight of the Century. If we hit the next milestone, I'm going to turn that into a physical cassette, and that'll be included with deluxe backers as well. So it is still, you haven't missed it, you can still get it. If you back at the deluxe level, I'll send out a copy of the primer, a printed copy of the primer. All right, let me know if you have any questions about the game. Let me know if you think it sounds cool. What kind of specialism would you like to play, of the new ones or of the old ones? Let me know what you think. All right, thanks. See you later.